open your eyes and see what's inside you. The time is now to raise up your voice and sing of His glory. The time is now. And sing of His glory. The time is now. And sing of His glory.
Greetings. Welcome to Into the Light. My name is Donald Schmid, and the topic of today's show is starting over again. We all go through difficult times in life. Life happens. Our country has gone through extremely difficult times these past 27 months. It has not been fun at times. We were cooped up in the house. I would go out just to go to the store, get some stuff, and I just would go do laundry or go to the supermarkets, and I was trapped, and I got used to being in the house, and I didn't know how to start over. You know, I got comfortable not doing anything, and I didn't agree with everything that was going on. And I was part of a group that was sticking to our guns until they told us that, you know, we had to do something that we didn't want to do if we wanted to go out to eat in restaurants, go to the movies, go to the bowling alley, or go to the gym. And I thought that was very unfair. You know, I didn't agree, and then finally, sometime in February, I decided that I was tired of being cooped up in the house and I wanted to go out. So I went and I did as I was told and as was explained to me. You know, I complied with what they thought was right, even though I didn't think it was right. I don't like to argue, and fighting is a losing battle, and God makes a way where there seems to be no way, no matter what. And I met some nice people in those difficult times when I went to doctor's office appointments, and you know, I shared on a prior show, obstacle or opportunity. When I went to that foot doctor back at the end of February, and he told me, don't bother going home. Go straight to the hospital. You know, and I did. And I met some nice people. I was there for 8 days. I interacted with some patients and the staff and everything. And I was checking in with the foot doctor, and I went to the foot doctor, and he sent me for an x-ray downstairs, and I met this woman. She worked there. And it was weird because she was supposed to be off that day. And a friend asked her to do a mutual, like, you work for me here and like I work for you there. And she did it, and she came in, and there was some literature about God on her computer. And had I not gone there, I wouldn't have met her. And I told her about our show. I told her about what God had did for me, and she was amused, you know, and all because she said yes to that person. They wanted, you know, sometimes we have to give and take, and we need to play nice with other people so that there's like we have a common unity together. We stick together. We come together in a common unity, and it forms a community. You know, I go to International Christian Center at 1501 Richmond Avenue, and we meet on Saturday mornings with the men at 8 o'clock from 8 to 10. We have services, and I didn't always live on Staten Island. You know, I had said a prayer. I said, God, send me anywhere, but don't send me to Staten Island. Here I am on Staten Island. I was in a homeless shelter back in 2011, 2012. I had nowhere to go. I was in there for 15 months from March of 2010 to July 2nd, 2011. I'm coming up on to 2011 to 2012. I'm sorry. And it's been interesting. I met some nice people. I met some different people. The way that it happened was God had orchestrated a plan for my life, and I didn't know it. And there's a verse in Jeremiah, verse 1, chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I sanctified you and ordained you a prophet to the nations. So Jeremiah was trying to disqualify himself. He said, "Oh God, I'm too young and everything, and I can't do this." And God will make a way where there seems to be no way. And when I was in that shelter, it wasn't fun, but it was necessary. And it was 15 long months, and they had some classes, they had computer training, and they had some other stuff, financial planning and everything, how to get a credit card and how to improve your credit score, which is important when you don't know how to do any of that. And I learned some skills, and I got to chair a meeting for the clients, which I was one of them, and it was clients for clients. Like I didn't answer to any of the staff. What was said in the room stayed in the room, and that was important because I was with 20 other brothers. I was with 20 brothers from other mothers, and I got scared one night because I felt outnumbered, and I ran out of the room in fear, And then I went to see somebody, and one of the staff, and we talked, and talked about how it was important to these guys to get a certificate, and I was one of the guys, but they just the guy who was running it had gotten his own place, had gotten his apartment, and was moving out, and he strongly suggested to the person who was in charge of Ready, Willing, and Able that Donald would be a good fit for this. And as we were getting ready to be discharged from the shelter and we would be starting over, I said yes, so I came up with some ideas for the program and everything, and we interacted. And there's a verse in Isaiah 43, verse 19. It says, "Remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." God will make a way. And I had been through lots of stuff and lots of years, and I believe someone once told me, if God brings you to it, He'll bring you through it. And we went through this difficult time in the pandemic and everything, and we lost loved ones to diseases and everything, and we were really close to them and dependent upon them. And now they're no longer here, and we don't know what to do. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of my experience, strength, and hope, how I handled losing loved ones in difficult times. And there was a time where, my I don't know what you're going through, but we're all going through some things. Maybe you lost a job, maybe you lost a loved one, maybe you can't put down the cigarettes, or you can't put down the drink, or you know. But I know that when I let go and I let God, things get better for me. My mother was in the hospital. I shared this last time, and she wasn't in good shape, and she was over on 164th Street in Queens, up near the Grand Central Parkway, and there was this woman. She was there, and she was a chaplain, and she came in and she said to my mother, she said to me, "Is it okay if I pray for your mother?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Catherine," she says, "I'm here, Donald's here, and Jesus is here." And in that moment, I was having a bad day. I was having a pity party, and I felt like crap. I was reading the Post. I didn't want to be bothered. I just wanted to go visit Mom and leave. But God had other plans. The tangible presence of the Holy Spirit fell in that hospital room. And it was strong. And I called up my church, which was New Life Fellowship on 8210 Queens Boulevard. And I said, I went to visit my mom, and I wasn't doing good. And Charlotte said, Donald's here, I'm here, and Jesus is here. And I says, I felt this presence. And I guess it was God's way of telling me that it was going to be okay. It wasn't okay in that moment. And it wasn't okay at the funeral home with people coming in and to pay their respects to my mom. And one of the guys that I worked with that I didn't even know showed up at my mom's funeral. I said, "What are you doing here?" He says, I'm married to your cousin. We're family, And he was in finance, and he was married to my mother's brother's daughter, and I met somebody new that I didn't even know was part of my family. And then we don't know what we don't know. And then my dad died first, and then my mom died. And, it wasn't fun, but going forward is important. And having a support group is important. And being in a community is important. And calling a church and finding out what they have available for you to participate in, will make life easier. So I was in the shelter. I got out of the shelter. on a Monday, July 2nd, and on Wednesday, July 4th, it was the 4th of July. And I had met this guy that came to pick me up at the shelter and took me to my new apartment on Port Richmond Avenue, and he was in charge of the house. You know, it was for people who were transitioning and going through stuff, you know, and we need to, as we go forward, it's important to say goodbye to yesterday. You know, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today's a gift. That's why we call it the present. You know, and we just, I'm going to read something from this book, and I hope it makes sense to you. When you have come to the end of something or have lost something, such as a marriage, an opportunity, or a job, what you do during the in-between time holds the secret to the success of starting over in your new season. Transitions take a great deal of faith and patience. Being sandwiched between an ending and a beginning is an uncertain and frustrating place to live. But that is the order of things in nature, and so it is with you. Our human affairs align with patterns of nature, the natural order of season, the sun rising and setting each day, and the transition from childhood to adulthood, the natural beginnings and endings. Yet endings make most people fearful or even resentful because they misuse the critical break between the seasons by looking back rather than looking forward ahead. It takes faith to push past the feelings of loss. You may need to mourn your losses, but eventually we have to let go of the old before we can embrace the new. So I came here, I was here for a couple of months. I met somebody that introduced me to CTV, that introduced me to ICC. I met the men. I went there on a Friday night on August 30th or August 31st, and the next day there was a men's meeting, and I went to the men's meeting, and I got to meet the men, and I think the speaker might have been from Friday night was speaking Saturday morning at the men's meeting. And I got to meet people, and I got to get involved. And we went to, I went to Binghamton, New York with them. And when we came back, in the next 2 months, our lives would never be the same because Hurricane Sandy came to Staten Island, you know, with a vengeance, and lots of people lost everything, you know, and I had lost everything a few years ago. So when they lost their homes, I was able to meet with them and tell them, even though my situation was different, that God would make a way where there seemed to be no way. No, they lost their houses. I lost my apartment. You know, I lost my income and everything. I had nothing. I was getting a small check from Social Security, you know, and I got to participate in disaster relief at, you know, International Christian Center. And I would log people in, and we'd have people come in, carpenters and everything, and they'd help rebuild the houses. They would do renovations. They would do demolition. and we were like 40, 50 people, and people came from New Jersey, and they helped us out, and I made connections with them, and I got to help them in their food pantry, and we had a food pantry. When you're in a community and you come together as a church, you can help a lot of people. And last year we had this thing called Boxes of Hope, where we gave away thousands of boxes of food to people who were in need. And I was told that we have to go through to get through, and that there's no drive-through breakthroughs. We want everything to happen, but life is a process. You're born, you're a newborn, you become a toddler, an infant, an adolescent, a teenager, a so-called adult. But lots of times we have negative emotions from our past that cut us off from our future. And I've discovered that there's no future in my past. In 1966, my grandmother died. In 1967, my best friend Peter died. My grandma, Nana Rose, she loved me. She had this, I'd go to the store for her, and she said she had a college fund for me, like in a jar. She would save like nickels, dimes, and quarters. And back in the 60s, $1 was a lot. I used to go over her apartment over by Woodhaven Boulevard, and there used to be a Wetson's there. Now it's a Dunkin' Donuts. There were some good memories. Across the street was Modell's. It used to be Cross Bay Theater. Growing up, I worked in the Cross Bay Theater. So God was always with me, even when I didn't know it. And I got to volunteer in a couple of things, and there was a time where I didn't know what a volunteer was, and I wrote down a definition. A volunteer is a person who freely offers to take part in an enterprise or undertaking task. Volunteerism, the principles of donating time and energy for the benefit of other people in the community as a social responsibility rather than for financial reward. And I had this friend like 35 years ago. We went to the races in the Preakness in Maryland, and she said, "Donald, you have a lot of time. Why don't you volunteer?" And I was selfish and self-centered, and I didn't know, how to volunteer, and I didn't know the joy and the comfort and the peace of helping others. As I said, when I was in that shelter, I stepped up, and I was told to just say yes. And the two things I want you to take away from starting over are be available for others and just say yes. You may not know how to do it, but I believe that yes opens the door to endless possibilities to be beneficial to others. In 2019, I went to this one-day convention. I think it was the day after my birthday. It was June 8th. I just turned 68 on Tuesday. My father told me I never make 5. And I went there, and they were talking about going out to California, and they were going to go to Skid Row, and they were going to go to the Dream Center in Los Angeles on Sunset Boulevard, and they were going to have like a revival or a convention, and we were going to go pray for people. And there's 60,000 homeless people in Los Angeles, you know, and they had Tent City over there. And I went and I gave out sandwiches and food. And what happens was businesses would donate chicken or pizza or cold drinks or water, you know, and I was grateful, having gotten past the homelessness, to be able to share with these men and women. And I took a chance. I had never stayed at a bed and breakfast before. And I picked one out, and the people seemed very nice. They said, you know, we make breakfast in the morning and everything. You'll have your own room. And they had this really big dog, and it was a nice space. But what was weird about it was, like, in the middle, on top of Sunset Boulevard, like Sunset Boulevard is on level ground. And as you go up, you know, you go around, you go up, you go up, you go up. The apartment and room that I was in was the first house on the block to have a view looking over Los Angeles. And the people were very nice. I was there for 4 or 5 days. The wife made croissants in the morning, and she cooked and everything, and she was really hospitable. And I had some laundry, and I asked, could I do laundry? And she said no. And I looked at her. She said, I'll do it for you. And that was unbelievable to me, for somebody that didn't know me would go the extra mile, because I was helping these people out in California start over. It just amazed me, you know. And we get to do things. We don't have to do things. So it was just, God will make a way, you know, no matter what. And I met some nice people, and they were from all over the country. And we met in groups, and there were these 4 women who I met from Texas and other places, and we got to spend some time together and pray for people. And we went out to lunch together, and they would pick me up in the morning, and they would take me to the park, and we make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the people. And you know, the body of Christ comes together, and everybody has many gifts and talents, you know, and serving in one of them. And Jesus died so we could live, you know. And if you don't know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, it says in Romans 10, verses 9 and 10, if you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, that he died for you, you'll be saved from a hopeless way of thinking and living, and you'll have another chance to start over. So don't give up. Don't give in. God will make a way where there seems to be no way. He works in ways we cannot see. He will make a way for you, and he will make a way for me. He will be my guide, hold me closely to his side. With love and strength for each new day, he will make a way. By a roadway in the wilderness he leads me. Rivers in the desert will I see. Heaven and earth will fade, but his word will still remain, and he will do something new today. God will make a way. Thanks for watching Into the Light. We'll see you next time. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.